If you visit a DTC Communications office and you ask to see Gary Lawrence, well, you may just get a puzzled look. However, if you ask to see Bronson Lawrence, well, someone will know right away who you're talking about. For more than 40 years, Gary Lawrence has been known primarily as Bronson. His telephone directory listing, business cards, the people he works with daily, right down to his own family. Everyone remotely familiar with him knows him simply as Bronson. What others also know Bronson Lawrence for is his cooking prowess. When he's not busy maintaining the fleet, properties, and just about anything else imaginable at DTC Communications, you might find Bronson busy cooking hamburgers or barbecue at the DeKalb County Fair, at an area get-together, or maybe just in his own kitchen. While cooking is just a hobby right now for the 25-year DTC veteran, it may someday become more of a part of his life when and if Bronson decides to retire. Bronson Lawrence's familiar nickname and his knack for always cooking up something good makes him the focus of this DTC Employee Spotlight. Okay, first of all, the name Bronson. Now, I've heard you tell the story, but there's a lot of folks out there that haven't heard the story. Tell us how the name Bronson came about.
Well, back in, I think 1968 or 69, there's a TV show come out called Then Came Bronson. And it's about a guy that rides a motorcycle from town to town, and his name was Bronson. And at that time, my neighbor, which is still my neighbor today, got calling me that. And that name has stuck with me over the years, and as of today, still, most people still call me that.
Now, I've always known you as Bronson, and many people have. Now, does anyone still call you by your real name, and does it ever catch you off guard when they do?
Not really. Now, most of my family members still call me by my first name, and I still occasionally run into people I went to school with that I hadn't seen for years still call me by my first name, but most people go by Bronson.
You mentioned your love for motorcycles, and I know you're a big motorcycle enthusiast and you like to ride. Tell us what got you interested in riding motorcycles, and how often do you ride now?
Well, I guess when I was probably 13-year-old, some of my friends had motorcycles, and I didn't have one. I couldn't wait to get one. I finally got one for Christmas, and I rode that thing and rode it, and of course, not long after I got one, I wanted to go bigger and better, because I love doing tricks, riding wheelies. Evel Knievel got popular, and I wanted to try some of the stunts that he did, and I did try some of them, and yes, I got hurt. But as older days, I don't ride as much because you hear so many people getting hurt on weekends riding, and another reason I don't ride as much, I injured my back when I was riding, so yes, I still ride, but not as much as I used to.
Okay, anyone who knows Bronson Lawrence knows about your love and your passion for cooking, for barbecuing. Talk about what got you interested in that.
Well, yes, I've always been a big barbecue person. I love the smell of it, I love cooking it. But really what got me interested, I used to go to, me and my wife go to festivals, carnivals, and we'd see the smoke coming from the concession stand. But I didn't just only want to go order a sandwich, I had to go around back, check it out, see what kind of cooker they had and how it was made. And when I seen my first cooker, I said, I'm gonna learn how to cook barbecue. And I built me a couple, had some small ones, and later on, I finally got one, this one here behind me.
Now, you mentioned going to festivals and smelling that barbecue smoke. Now, when folks go to the DeKalb County Fair and they smell the barbecue smoke, that's typically because you're back there at the Alexandria Lions Club building cooking up something good. Talk about how busy the Lions Club keeps you during the week of the DeKalb County Fair.
Well, I guess that is my responsibility to take care of the barbecue. I've been doing it for probably the last 15 years. It is a big chore. Last year, I think we cooked around 1,000 pounds. This year, it's even going to be bigger than that. On Saturday this year of the fair, there's a private party in Smithville having their company picnic, and they informed us they wanted us to cook for 2,000 people.
Wow.
Not only is that going to be a big chore during the day, but also Saturday night being the biggest night of the fair, we're really going to be busy.
Now, Bronson, from what I understand, this smoker that you have was custom built. Tell us a little bit about it and kind of walk us through and show us what all this thing will do.
Yeah, I've had a couple smaller smokers over the years, and you know, the more you cook, the more people want you to cook, so I had to go something a little bigger and better. So my brother actually made this for me, and I had it custom made the way I want it, and I'm still working on it. A few things I'm going to add to it, but this has actually got a a 6-foot cooking chamber in it. And this is all stainless steel, which is pretty nice. And of course, got the shelves here on it. If you come around here, of course, you know you can't have a smoker without a firebox. That's where your wood goes. Most time use hickory wood. Sometimes I mix a little hickory with pecan. And it's just a little deal on it where you got some beans or something already cooked, you sit there and keep them warm. Got some sandwich or something already made up, put them in here and keep them warm. Pretty neat. Of course, over here, I got my little supply of firewood. Like I say, most time I use hickory. And sometimes, you know, you're on the road, if you have flat tire, you gotta have a spare because you never know what's gonna happen. And now this is propane tanks. I'll talk about that in just a minute, about the propane. And this right here, it's just a little personal grill I made. When you're cooking and you're sitting there all day long, waiting on the meat to be, you know, the meat's gonna take 12, 24 hours to cook, and you're sitting there starving. I made me a little personal cooker. Put your little charcoal in the bottom of it, throw you a steak, hamburger, hot dog, brats, onions, and you can have that ready in just a few minutes. Of course, you can't have a smoker without a toolbox. You gotta have all your supplies and everything in here. And of course, you gotta have a place to make your sandwiches. Have me a butcher block table made. But now talking about the propane, of course, everybody knows smoking real barbecue comes from a hickory wood. And the trick about cooking barbecue, you cook your Boston butts, ribs, whatever, most of the time you're gonna smoke them. I like to smoke my butts for about 8 hours before I wrap them up. But what you can do is once you got your butts smoked for 8 hours and wrap them up, you can let your fire go out and you can fire up your propane, which I have 2 burners, one here and one here, and you can regulate your temperature up to about 2 to 220, and you can actually go in the house and go to bed knowing that your meat's gonna be took care of. Now, before I put the propane burners on, I get up all hours of the night. You have to get out and go out and check your smoker every 2 to 3 hours, put wood on. Is it too hot? It's not hot enough. But once you get your meat smoked with the hickory wood, you can actually take that meat in your house and put it in your oven, and it's still gonna taste good. Might smoke the house up a little bit, but it's still gonna taste good.
Do you see cooking and barbecuing possibly be something that you would want to do on a more frequent basis, maybe sometime in the future?
Maybe. You know, when I started cooking barbecue, I loved it. It was a hobby. It's something I really enjoyed. But I won't tell you, the more you cook and the older you get, I found out it's a lot of work. But maybe when I retire, I'll think about it. We'll just have to see when the time comes.
Let's talk about your time at DTC Communications. You've been there for several years. You've seen a lot of changes. And of course, when anything seems to go wrong at DTC Communications, everybody knows the guy to call is Bronson.
Yeah, I get a lot of calls you just can't believe. But being at DTC for 25 years, I've seen a lot of changes. And yeah, I get a lot of calls for a lot of different things. Being the fleet manager and also building maintenance, you know, I've seen broken pipes to broken trucks. But what really amazes me most of anything is the time I've been there in 25 years, it's going from dial tone to television, broadband, internet, security, and wireless telephones. I mean, it's amazing how it's changed in the last 25 years.
Now, I heard you mention the word retirement a few minutes ago, and I know within the next year or so that becomes an option for Bronson Lawrence. Is that something you think about? I know you really enjoy what you do and the people you work with. Is that something you've put a lot of thought into?
Well, yes, I'm thinking about it. At this time, I'm not sure what I really need to do. About a year from now, I need to take a look at the economy. Another thing, if I retire, I'm not sure. I'm afraid I might get bored. But I guess if I get bored, I can always cook barbecue.
Now, Bronson, in addition to your work at DTC Communications, you love barbecuing, the fact you still like to ride motorcycles, you've got a pretty busy family life, too. Tell us about your family, and I know you've got a little grandson that keeps you on the move quite a bit, too.
Yes, we do. We have a wonderful grandson, Julian. He's the grandest thing in the world. And me, myself, I come from a family of 3 brothers and sisters. I'm the youngest. My mother is 94-year-old, still lives right beside me. She's still in good health. Sherry, my wife, we have been married for 32 years. We have a wonderful relationship. Lauren, her daughter, which is a wonderful person too, and of course our son, Julian, we think he's the grandest, and he loves to come see Paul and Anna.
Now, what I understand, Paul's also got a motorcycle ready for Julian when he's old enough and ready to ride, is that right?
Yes, I have an old little motorcycle I've been hanging on to for years, and when Julian gets big enough, when he thinks he's ready to ride, I got one waiting on him, but Lauren doesn't know that.
Many at DTC Communications refer to Bronson Lawrence as Mr. DTC. If there's a problem, usually the first number called is that of Bronson Lawrence. When it's time for a DTC retirement party, it's usually Bronson's number that rings again, as most employees want him to handle the food for the festivities. In fact, Bronson's tireless dedication to DTC Communications and his co-workers earned him the prestigious Chester Patterson Award in 2013. His own retirement may be looming soon, but whether he chooses to retire or continue on at DTC, you can believe Bronson Lawrence will stay busy. He has too many hobbies, too much energy, and a loving family that will most certainly ensure that. For this DTC Employee Spotlight, I'm Tom Duggan.